Halo, saya Jonathan dan bagi siapa pun yang menonton dari Indonesia atau berbicara bahasa tersebut, maaf jika ada nama yang mungkin saya salah ucapkan dalam ulasan ini. From Timo Jahanto, a big name in action and international film circles, known for delving into the action genre with films like Night Come For Us and Big Four, and its horror films, like the May the Devil Take You series, or his segments in the VHS movies. And next year he's going to be directing the next Nobody film with Bob Odenkirk, comes The Shadow Strays, an action film about a group of clandestine assassins called the Shadows. When a member of the team, codenamed 13, messes up during a mission, she is put on the bench but gets involved in a conspiracy involved in local Jakartan criminals, and things spiral out from there. I wasn't familiar with Chahantol's action films. I've seen most of his horror movies, and they're good. And the only action film I've seen of his is his comedy The Big Four, which is also good. And I can happily report this film is great. Right from the get-go, this film showcases the type of action you're going to see: visceral, intense, and bloody. I can't show you any clips from the film, also because I could get content ID'd, but also this film is very, very violent. Johantol's skill as a horror movie director works well here in the actions. It is gory, but not over the top, and that doesn't create a tonal imbalance with the film, and there's emotion felt with every punch and kick and each character deals out. It's really good. On the performance side of things, Aurora Ribeiro gives a damn good performance here. She gives an intense and raw element in the action moments, but combines it with an element of innocence, more in the lost sense, but barely holding on to it. Opposite her is Hannah Malasan, as a Spear, who isn't in the film as much, and if there is anything to criticise in this film, it's that there isn't a lot of the Shadow Strays in the film, and they only make sporadic appearances throughout the film, but those moments are important as it ties into the film's themes, and is a good bit of characterization from Malasan's character. The film also has a lot of themes, and they have also shown up in Johannes's other works, stuff like Found Family and Being on the Margins, that characterises previous work shows up here and is played to good effect here. The film is a dark story, but how it shows how connecting with people can come together and help each other stops it from going totally bleak, and giving the film moments of calm before things get brutal. The Shadow Strays is a solid action film, one of the best of the year, with magnificent set pieces and performances throughout. The film is currently streaming on Netflix. You should do yourself a service and check it out. Nihongo o Hanasu o Shinsho no Minasamu ni Kotoba no Ayamari ni Sweet Owabi Moshi Maso. Mononoke, not to be confused with the Hayao Miyazaki film, was an anime series that was a spin-off of Ayakashi Samurai Tales. The main premise of the show was about a mysterious medicine seller who gets himself into various supernatural encounters with Mononoke, a type of Ayakashi that linger in the human world. I love the series for its dark and eerie atmosphere, and the beautiful and complementary animation. But I was excited for the movie, and I can proudly say that Mononoke the movie, Phantom in the Rain, is well worth the wait. This time, the film sees the medicine seller having to deal with the goings-on and Oku. For those of you who don't know your Japanese history and had to do a quick Google halfway through the movie, an Oku was an area in the Edo castle where one related to the shogun lived. In the film, there's something serious going on that may or may not have connections to the disappearance of the concubine. Now, if you know the inner workings of an Oku, then you know that it didn't allow male adults in, so most of this film is actually focused on two new characters, Asa and Kame, as they deal with the inner workings of the Oku. Now, this would seem like a cop-out, not having the medicine seller be the main focus, but I liked it, because some of the best stories from the show mainly had other characters be the main focus, and the medicine seller be an observer who was to solve the supernatural issue. Think of the Shashiki Warashari or Nopabera Bo arcs, and you can see how this film goes. Asa and Kami here are compelling, and seeing them deal both with the obsessional office politics and the supernatural elements works well. Remind me of stuff like Black Narcissus or that Sydney Sweeney nun movie Immaculate that came out earlier this year. As I mentioned those arcs on the show, the film does borrow those arcs' themes and observations about women's society's role. Sure, Asa and Kami are free to fulfill their roles in the Elku, but they're still contained within on building and have to make sacrifice to a shogun who we don't see much in the film. It's a fascinating theme that connects the film to the show. The horror elements here are strongly used effectively. The film carries the series' eerie and creepy atmosphere, but with a bit more fast pace than the show. Lots of rapid editing. While it would be a bit disoriented, it still works to keep moving the film forward, but still making it very deliberately odd and unnerving. Now, this is an anime film. How's the animation? It's great. Like a lot of film continuation of shows, the animation looks a bit upgrade. While the animation of the show was great, the film has a more wider scale. Colour palette of the film is a bit more brighter and vibrant, which creates a great contrast to the horror aspects of the film. That also makes it a little bit darker, but there's a natural element to it. The film character designs are also good, making strike a fine line between what you'd call a recognisable anime style with an pure painting look. Praise to director Kenji Nakamura, who also directed the anime series, and here brings the full style of the show to the film with a bigger, grander style. Mononoke the movie, Phantom in the Rain, is a vibrantly creepy film. The film brings the show's iconic style and animation back and goes all in with a grander scope that a film would allow, but a TV show would not. Even though there are some elements I kind of feel like are left hanging, probably because this is the first part of a film trilogy, so that obviously will be followed up in two sequels. You can watch the film if you weren't a fan because it's a standalone film, and the show as well. Both are currently streaming on Netflix at the time of recording, and I full-heartedly recommend you watch it. Happy New Year when you're watching this, because I wrote and made this episode well in advance, and also it may not be New Year's when you watch this, considering how much lists I have to make. Anyway, 2024 was admittedly pretty mixed in general, but as we enter a new year, it's good to look forward, mostly to the films, because yeesh, and 2025 seems to have a pretty interesting slate ahead of us, so let's get into it. Honourable mentions. So a little house clean. This section is for films I'm interested in seeing, but either didn't make it into the final 10, or I just found more interesting, but I don't know if it's getting a release this year, especially if it might be released at a festival where it sometimes takes years for it to be seen by the general public. So here are the honourable mentions. Aztec Batman. Now, on the surface, this may seem like another animated Batman movie. Those usually are a dime a dozen on the DTV market, but this one is something you should check out, mostly for the premise. What if Batman, but instead of Gotham City, it's Aztec Mexico? This looks interesting, blending real history with comic book superheroics, with Hernan Cortez being a version of Two-Face, and it's cool to see an interpretation of a hero from a different country than we're used to, so there's something to look forward to in that. And now, onto the 10 films I'm excited for this year. Number 10. Battle of Thorn High. Joko Anwar is a filmmaker from Indonesia I'm interested in, but I haven't watched most of his films. I've seen his Saint Slaves remake / prequel, and I'm interested in what he's made, which ranges from horror films, dramas, to even Indonesia's very own superhero franchise. And his next film, Battle of Thorn High, sets to be the first collaboration between a Hollywood studio and Indonesia, and that seems pretty neat. Number 6. The Magnificent Life of Marcel Pagnol. Another animated film, this time from director Sylvain Chomet. Director behind films like Triplets of Bellevue and The Illusionist. Yeah, so if you know your animated movies or your French movies, you know. Well, it's the end of the year, and despite everything else, the movies were good. It was a year about the horrors of pregnancy, clowns, films about TV, prequels, unconventional music biopics, and multi-part films. So here's a list of my favourite films of the year. Now, before we get into this list, I know that I'm going to get asked in the comments section about why I left out certain films on this list. Well, certain Oscar movies, The Complete Unknown, The Brutalist, etc., don't get released in the UK until January, so that's why they're not on the list. I haven't seen the film that you might mention, because I mostly do this channel more as a hobby, that I can probably monetize if I can reach a certain number of subscribers. Please subscribe. so I'm not a professional film critic in that sense, so I don't often watch as many films as most professional film critics do, and I just didn't get to see certain films. Juror number 2, didn't see it. Queer, didn't see it. I saw the TV Glow. Regrettably, I didn't get to see it. Why is this 2023 film here? Certain films and questions would have had a festival run in the year before, but have been given a general release this year, which is fair game. I watched it, liked it. I didn't put it on the list because I saw something I thought was better, but don't worry, that's why we have honourable mentions. Furiosa. Another prequel, this time playing like the slower and observant opposite to Fury Road's high energetic chase. Rita. A dark fantasy that is sometimes harrowing but still hopeful in some spots. Not an easy watch but still good. With those out the way, in alphabetical order, it's time for my favourite films of 2024. In a Violent Nature. Inverting a slasher movie archetype has been done before in films like the remake of Maniac for Elijah Wood or Behind the Mask, but what In a Violent Nature does is take a more slower, atmospheric approach to it, often feeling like slow cinema, and while I can tell what horror movie franchise it's riffing on, the film stands on its own as a damn good slasher with some great kills. Look back. One thing that made 2024 noticeable was that there was a noticeable lack of comic book films. Well, there was one MCU film in Deadpool and Wolverine, which was more of a Fox X-Men film. We had all the Spider-Man spin-off films that didn't take off, along with Joker 2, and oh yeah, they made another Crow movie. But not every comic book has capes and cows, and Look Back is probably one of the best comic book films of the year, one of the best animated films of the year, and one of the best films about comic books. Based on the one-shot manga by Chainsaw Man creator Tatsuki Fujimoto, Look Back is a great film about collaborative creativity and the friendships that can be born out of it, being a sweet and heartfelt film. While this film has a short run time, and some moments might feel fleeting, but it tells the story how it wants to, and does so in the right way. The animation is pretty good as well. The Shadow Strays. I've already reviewed this in depth, but to repeat myself, Timo Johansson's Shadow Strays is a brutal and visceral and intense action film. For action scenes that are as tense as they are bloody, he doesn't pull any punches, and that doesn't make it hard not to look away, and still adds a human element that makes the film all the more engaging. So those were my favourite films of the year. What were yours? Please comment below and like and share.
So we're halfway through the year, and I thought, why not do a midpoint best films of the year list? Mostly to show what I've enjoyed throughout the year so far, inform you, the audience, of films you might have missed during the year, and give you time to catch up on them if you missed them. My rules are still the same as the best of 2024 list, must have been released to an audience in 2025. Films that had a festival release count. Films that had a run in theatres the year before getting released in the UK do not count. Anyway, let's start this list with Number 2, Bullet Train Explosion. While I haven't seen the original that this film is a sequel to, I found it a good time. Like most disaster movies like this, it has all the same hallmarks of the genre. People in suits figuring out how to solve the problem, cast of different character archetypes all stuck in one location, and tense situations to go into. The film is a sequel to a Japanese film from 1975, and you don't have to watch that film to get the full picture for this film, but towards the end it does connect itself with the original film where the uninitiated might get lost. The film is available on Netflix. Number 5, Revelations. From Train to Busan director Yeong Sang-ho comes Revelations, a mystery film from South Korea about a priest who gets interested in one of his parishioners who might be involved in a police investigation, and that's all I'm going to say from here on in. It's a good film. There's a lot of moving parts. Some don't get as much attention as they should, but I was entertained by it, especially with the performances. If you have seen Yeong Sang-ho's other films, you can see the attention he pays to themes like family and guilt. This film is, yet again, on Netflix. So these are my favourite films of the year so far. Will this change at the end of the year? Maybe, maybe not. Will I be reusing clips of these in my end of year video this year to save time? Probably. But I might have other things to say about these films down the line, so who knows. Now, what's the best film of the year you've seen so far? Please comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, do you like movies? Do you like movie reviews? Then this channel has stuff like that. There's Watch This Space, my film review show where I view recent films, and I also make short films, like Correspondence, which is very unique. If you'd like to see stuff like this, then please subscribe to stay updated on my work. I also follow my social media channels as well, so please subscribe to my channel.
日本語を話す視聴者の皆様、言葉を間違えてしまったことをお詫び Moshiagamashu. Mononoke, good TV show, very spooky. It's about a medicine seller who deals with some spooky stuff. Last year they did a movie where he investigates goings on at Anoku, aka the harem of the Shogun. I reviewed the previous movie, and I'm going to show you my previous review here quickly. And if you want to watch that in slow motion, check it out here, but also other videos I have on my channel. Please subscribe to get more like it. Anyway, in Mononoke the movie, Chapter 2, Ashes of Rage, the medicine seller is back at the Oku again to deal with some spooky stuff, but this time the focus is on the upper chambers where the higher class of concubine vie for the attention of the shogun, where things get testy as one lady, the lower in social class Fuku, is pregnant, and this has caused much distress in the court, and might be related to a possibly unrelated, but obviously not, fiery death of another concubine, which the medicine seller has to solve. I like this film. While its runtime is a bit shorter, so it doesn't have the slow burn of Phantom in the Rain, nor does it have the rising creepiness as well, I don't mind it, as the film makes up for it in other ways. We get more insight of the inner workings of the Oku, mainly in the upper class areas. Secondary characters who showed up in the previous film get more bigger roles, like Sachiko the God or Lady Botan. But again, Asa, the main character from the first film, shows up briefly, which is kind of odd considering that she was kind of the main character in the last one, and I was kind of thinking she'd be like the main through-line character, but surprisingly not, which is a shame because I liked her character in the last one. The Shogun is also briefly seen, but he's still not that big of a presence. It's clear when all three films will be released that they're going to play well together, and that's where you can also see little story beats set up and will be played off, especially in regards to how things are set up in each film. This film also carries the previous film's themes of what women give up to work in a patriarchal society. The last film was about identity, with most of the concubines throwing away personal belongings to start working at the Oku. This one is about bodily autonomy, so that's fun. If the first film felt like it was expanding on the themes of the Noppapower Bow arc, this one taps into the themes of the Zashiki Roroshari arc, but unlike that one, it doesn't feel muddled. If you've seen the show, you understand what I'm talking about, because I'm not giving up a lot of details here, because they might give the film's game away. Here we see most of the Shogun's councillors in the film, whose daughters are all concubines, and we see them trying to jostle for power, using their own daughters as pawns in the game. And helping us nail that theme down is that most of the scenes that all seem playing a game of shogi, subtle. In my last film, I compared the theme to Immaculate, the Sling Nun movie, but that comparison is more appropriate here, along with last year's First Omens, as they also deal with bodily autonomy and how the patriarchy seeks to control women. There seems to be a bigger theme across these films emerging, like permission. The medicine seller isn't allowed into the Oku unless he has permission and still uses the pass he earned from the last film, and certain characters are asked to do things if they consent to it, but often that is given under duress. It's a small thing, but I sense it will become a bit clearer when the third film comes out next year. On the animation side, it's as good as the previous film, still has the psychedelic ukiyo-e look, and the titular Mononoke this time around looks cool, and makes a good companion to the previous film's one. Also, the editing in this movie is a bit less hyperactive than the last film, but as Shigeru Nishiyama does some interesting tricks, like how he uses jump cuts to make her close up on Lady Botan, or how it cuts to a different character's correct juxtaposition who is often in the same place. Mononoke the movie, Ashes of Rage, is a good and consistent follow-up to Phantom in the Rain, tackling some interesting themes and painting a clear through line between these films with good animation to boot. I'm excited for the final part that comes out next year. This film, along with its previous entry and the TV show it's based on, are all available on Netflix at the time of recording. Hello, I'm an internet reviewer / commentator who's talking about Star Wars. I like Star Wars. If there is an entry I don't particularly like, I move on from it and do not make it my entire online persona for the rest of my life. Also, if there's an entry I do like, I also don't make it a new yardstick to judge all previous and future entries with. Anyway, we got another Star Wars Vision anthology. With Volume 3, we see the animated Star Wars anthology return to its anime theme this year, which I do admit I do kind of wish we had more of the international animation studios like we got in Volume 2, but Volume 3 has a solid and interesting set of stories to tell, starting with The Duel, Payback from Kamikaze Doga and Anima. This story is a sequel to one from Volume 1, one of the three in this collection. Set in a reimagined version of the Star Wars universe, we see our Sith Ronin having to deal with a Jedi Crusader who he maimed previously. This short has a lot of fun playing around in the Kurosawa-inspired sandbox with a mishmash of aesthetics from different trilogies. It has a lot of fun characters and some interesting ideas with regards to the Jedi, where they come off as religious fanatics, with the Crusader calling out our Ronin as a sinner. Put a pin in that because there's a theme here. The animation is great here, as it was in the original story with some great action scenes. The Song of the Four Wings from Project Studio Q. This is the first CGI animated story of the volume. This was a fun story about a princess in the Rebel Alliance, not that one, who helps rescue a cute alien baby and stop an Imperial mine operation. This was a fun short. The cel-shaded animation looks appealing and there's a fun, over-the-top cartoony feel to it. From the designs to the action beats to a Star Wars-esque magical girl transformation sequence, this was a fun one. The Ninth Jedi, Child of Hope. The second sequel, this one follows up from Studio IG's Ninth Jedi short. Before this volume was released, it was announced that the Ninth Jedi short is getting its own spin-off series, and with that in mind, this short feels like a teaser for the series, but I don't mind that because it's pretty good. It's a bit of a refresher course, remind you of who the characters are and what their respective deals are. This one deals with Lakara, a Jedi in train helping a droid in a derelict starship. It's a good story, gives out more details of the setting, and has a fun droid character called Tito, who is a cool CGI design that meshes well with the 2D elements. The Bounty Hunters. This one from Wit Studio feels like a backdoor pilot to another show, which I totally would watch. This one details the adventures of Sven, a fugitive assassin turned bounty hunter, and her droid assistant IV-A4, doing a job for a rich guy who, surprise surprise, turns out to be not on the up and up. As I mentioned before, this one felt like a backdoor pilot, especially as some elements like Sven's quest to find and kill the Jedi who saved her, and there's some characters mentioned who feel like they might possibly be important down the line. Not that I wouldn't mind. In fact, I would love to see more of the characters in this. I also like the character of Sven and her view on the Jedi. As well, she did save her from slavery as a child. She ended up with a target on her back by the organisation and now wants to kill her saviour, which to me is an interesting aspect, as we don't see a lot of characters, especially those on the good, potentially have a not particular kind view of the Jedi. There's some good action scenes, especially one with droid mech, which was something I didn't know I needed. Overall, the short itself was good, and I definitely sign up for more if they do continue the story. Ukel's Treasure. Oh, this was a sweet one. This story from Cinema Citrus is a nice reader. It's about an orphan and his caretaker, who's a robot teddy bear, sure, why not, who live on Tatooine. But their idyllic life on the Dust Bowl is put under threat when a gang of pirates come to steal something from them. It's a cute little adventure with a lot of heart and comedy. It feels a bit like Skeleton Crew. If you like that show, you'd definitely like this one. Lost One, another one from Cinema Citrus and another sequel. This one's my personal favourite of Volume 1 short, The Village Bride. This details the manic Jedi F having to save a group of refugees from the Empire, but also having to deal with her former master who now works in the Empire. This is a great follow-up. We get a lot more about F. For instance, we learn she's got a robotic leg, and we get some interesting side characters. The animation, like its prequel, is also good. It also has a good colour palette with bright and stark colours being put to good use. The Smuggler. From Studio Trigger comes The Smuggler. This one is a fun little escapade dealing with a smuggler trying to help a fugitive prince escape the Empire's crackdown on his world. There's a lot of excitement to be had with a great chase scene, some interesting characters, and some good world building. It's also here where I noticed one of the big themes of this volume, survival. Each story in this volume have a lot of characters who've survived some horrible experiences, like Rupas, a cute baby whose village was massacred, the numerous Jedi who survived all the 66, the Sith being hunted by the Grand Master's crusade, and a prince in this story who lost his royal family. It's a theme that's always been in Star Wars, and we get to see all the survivors in this story try and move on in some way or another, be it the Ronin trying to make amends, F trying to keep Jedi traditions going, and the prince in this story trying to help free his world from the Empire along with another Order 66 survivor who pledges her alliance to him, reinforcing this theme. The Bird of Paradise. From Polygon Pictures, the second CGI short of the volume comes The Bird of Paradise. In this short, it details a young Jedi Padawan called Nakimi having to deal with losing her sight after a battle with a Sith. The animation in this one is great and gets creative in how it depicts the Padawans in a turmoil and accompanying Force visions, and its overall message of acceptance is appreciated. It's also here where two of the volume's themes crop up, the depiction of Jedi and disability. Throughout the volume, we see the Jedi in an interesting light. For some, like in Payback and Bounty Hunters, they're not seen in a good light, with the Grand Master and the duel, as mentioned before, being portrayed as a crusading knight who vanquishes enemies regardless who gets in his way, and Sven in her short seeks vengeance against the Jedi who rescued her, but left her to fend for herself. In this short, we see Nakimi having to come to terms with not just her disability, but also her arrogance that led her to this situation. It feels in line with The Last Jedi or The Acolyte, installments that tackled the less admirable aspects of the Jedi Order that we've seen in this film, but this short kind of does it in a more lighter approach. Another theme I noticed was disability. While Star Wars has always had characters who have a disability, it's probably the oldest film franchise with a main character who is an amputee if you think about it. Throughout the volume we see characters who lost limbs, and he lost her arm in the payback, and the Grand Master has various injuries requiring a Darth Vader-like procedure to keep him alive. Lino and F have cybernetic prosthetics. It ties itself into this volume's general theme of survival and how to overcome it, which is Akini's arc in this short, how to accept what was lost. Black. Okay, so this one is both the best short of this volume, but also a bit hard to review. From David Productions and veteran animator Shinya Ohira, a man who's worked on a lot of anime productions, like name anyone you're thinking of, he's probably worked on them in some capacity. Anyway, this short details the experience of a stormtrooper who's losing a battle. That's what I can gather from it, as this one goes in an experimental direction, detailing a psychedelic vision, get it, of a typical Star Wars space battle with great music by Fujiwara Sakura. Its animation is fluid and sketchy, reminiscent of Ohira's previous works like the animated sequence in Kill Bill Volume 1. It just doesn't let up. Everything's changing constantly, with Star Wars iconography constantly being swapped out. But it doesn't feel too hollow, as there's some details to grab onto. In short, it's Star Wars as you've never seen it before. Star Wars Vision's third volume still continues one of the most creative and fun entries in the Star Wars saga, with a bunch of stories that run the gamut from funny to action-packed to just plain weird. It's a great part of the saga that I always like coming back to. As 2025 draws to a close, it's usually a time to look back, but for this episode, I want to look forward at what 2026 offers us on the film front. Now, a small disclaimer, this list will be films that have a sort of release date, so no independent films that have not found a distributor yet will not appear on this list. And I should also acknowledge that films' release dates are subject to change. My previous anticipation list had films that got pushed back, so there's a good chance that some films on this list might be pushed back to 2027, so be cautious of that. Now, before we get into the main event, let's get to the honourable mentions. These are films that might come out next year, but don't have release dates that I'm interested in, so let's start with Daisy's Life. Masaki Yuasa, Mind Game, Night is Short, Walk On Girl, Lou Over the Wall, and Inuo has another film coming out from his new studio Ame Pippin. This film is an adaptation of Banana Yoshimoto's Daisy's Life. I'm excited to see what Yuasa has to offer this time. Pelangi de Mars. One of the things I tend to do is try and watch a variety of different films from around the world. One film I have on my radar is Pelangi de Mars, a science fiction film from Indonesia, and to my knowledge the country's first. It looks good and I hope to see it next year depending on how it's distributed outside of the country. Now let's look at the films with solid, at the time of recording, release dates. At number 1, it's All You Need Is Kill. Edge of Tomorrow, or Lived I Repeat depending on how you call it, is getting another go, or just that light novel it's based on is getting adapted again, this time as an anime movie detailing a different perspective from the novel and the film. The animation looks good. It has a good cel-shaded CGI look that I mistook for 2D until further inspection. I'm excited to see what this film has to offer. Number 6, Mononoke the Movie, Chapter 3, The Curse of the Serpent. I feel like the Mononoke movies are pretty underrated. Some of the best animated films I've seen recently, and 2026 offers us the conclusion to the medicine seller's escapades in the Yoku. This one seems to finally involve the Shogun, who's made sporadic appearances in the films, and could possibly tie up other mysteries that have popped up about the Yoku in the films. Well, I'm probably going to have to watch the film to find out if they'll answer my questions. Happy New Year! To bring in 2026, let's talk about last year's movies. The criteria for this list is as follows. Films must have been released in 2025. Awards films that had their wide release in the UK in January and February will not be on this list, as they had their limited releases in 2024 and are not 2025 films. Nor will international films that were released in their country of origin in 2024 will be on this list as well. But festival films that premiered in 2024 during the festival circuit but got released to the general public this year have a place on this list. This is my list, and those were my rules. So let's start this with the honourable mentions. With those films out of the way, let's move on to the main list in alphabetical order, starting with Left-Handed Girl. Shi Ching-so's intimate kitchen sink drama is a beautiful piece of filmmaking. The use of an iPhone camera to film the movie gives the film an up-close and personal feel to it. But it's performances from Janelle Tsai, Xing Yuan Ma, and Nina Yi who makes this film, with each having their own distinct little tableaus that all weave together seamlessly. Nihongo o Hanaso, Shicho-sa no Minasama Kotoba o Mashigete Shimeta Koto o Rabi Moshi Agamashu. So I reviewed both Mononoke movies, but I've never reviewed the TV show on the channel. So let's do that, mostly for completionist's sake, and also it adds a bit to the upcoming compilation video that I'm going to make when the third film comes out. Anyway, back to the show. Spinning off from the anthology series Ayakashi Samurai Tales, and released in 2007, Mononoke sees a mysterious medicine seller travelling to various places that usually become beset with supernatural spirits called Mononoke. To exorcise these spirits, the medicine seller needs to find out the Mononoke's shape, truth, and reason. But usually in doing so, he finds out a lot more about the places he visits and the people he initially sets out to help. The show had 12 episodes, and within those episodes were serialized story arcs, often ranging from 2 to 3 episodes. The arcs are pretty quick and don't draw things out and let the mystery play out. It also manages to let the themes that underlie the horror play out. As I mentioned in my Mononoke movie reviews, the commodification of women is a persistent theme in the show, as it was in the movies, and the show also delves into other themes like the darker side of humanity, people's vices, and less savoury details are also examined in the show. Arcs like the Nue arc, about how people will prize something that has some inherent worth, or the Zashiki Arashi arc, which is also about how you have to sacrifice your own choices in order to work. I could go into more depth about this, but these are mystery stories, and I feel if I give out more details it would spoil the show, so do check out the series if you want to have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. And you should really check out the show, it's well worth it. My favourite arcs of the series were the Nopabera Bow and Bakaniko. Nopabera Bow had a great story behind it, detailing why a woman killed her husband. It's 2 episodes long, but as I mentioned before, the show manages to make those 2 episodes compelling. Bakaniko is actually a remake or set-in update of the original 3 episodes that were in the Ayakashi Samurai Tales series, which the medicine seller first appeared in, moving the timeline to the 1920s, and has the medicine seller having to solve a murder mystery on the subway train. It's a great mystery and a good bookend for the series to end on, both on a story and thematic front. While it's not essential to watch before the show, watching whatever order you want, honestly, I do recommend you check out the Ayakashi Samurai Tales episodes, as it's a good pilot for the show in a way, and some characters show up in the series proper, so there's good connective tissue there. Check it out if you want to be a completionist. Another aspect I should mention is the show's animation. It utilises a bright, colourful, and cartoony art style which evokes wood painting, a type of painting that was popular in the show's possible time period. It also serves as a good offset for the show's horror aspect. The show doesn't revel in the scariness, it gets its scares from the uncomfortableness and the unease that plays out during the episodes. It's aided by the editing, there are effective jump cuts and transitions, which adds to the odd and uneasiness of the show. If you want something scary and visually different from your typical anime, then Mononoke is the show for you. The show is, at the time of recording, available on Netflix, so do check it out if you want to. Like what you see here? Then please subscribe for my YouTube channel so you can get more Watch This Space, but also other things such as my short films. Please remember to like and subscribe to the videos you just watched, and also please check out the Orange Bin, my blog, where I have write-ups of my episodes here, which with links to sources that I mention on the show. Also contains some of my old blog posts if you want to see what else I used to do back in the olden days. So please remember to check out my blog and like and subscribe to my YouTube channel.